I don't know if you're the only woman, but you're one of the few women. So how do you kind of maintain that in this type of coaching world where there's 97% men and not many women around?
You know, the interesting thing is that's not the truth. There are more female coaches than male coaches. Just like in network marketing, I learned that 70% of the industry were women, but the top 30% of the moneymakers were men.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Hard Rock Hustle podcast. My name is Anthony.
And I'm Janoka.
And we are your hosts. We are bringing you ways to create more income outside your 9-to-5s, create more impact and influence. And today, we are with our coach, Miss Donni Wiggins. If you guys didn't know, Donni Wiggins has helped us generate over $1 million in our educational business.
Yes.
She is also a co-host of one of the top podcasts, one of the top 5, top 10 podcasts in the world, social podcast, entrepreneur. She's also a mother. We're going to be talking about how you manage that, motherhood and business. And we are thankful and grateful to have you here.
So excited. I think this is my first time feeling just a little bit nervous.
No, please.
Because
Donni.
it's y'all.
Girl.
I'm putting on for my clients. Let's go.
Donni be getting in you know what, every week. So.
Definitely.
Yes.
Donni, before we get into your greatness that is today, I definitely want to dive into your backstory. So we did a little bit of research. We know about some of the MLM.
Research.
We did a little bit of research.
Research scares me right now.
Crazy.
I don't know what's out there on those internet streets.
We knew that you started in the MLM field where you were helping people generate income from that. But
And what's MLM for people that may not know?
Multi-level marketing. So those pyramid schemes that everybody calls it, but just networking. So you're putting groups of people together who are all marketing like one product, one service, one offer.
Okay.
Nova said that too.
I was like Mary Kay?
Absolutely. Mary Kay is
that's what I
MLM
knew.
business. It's the most misunderstood industry, professional industry that I believe exists. So many people don't understand the concept. And I'm not involved in MLM anymore, but I still am an avid believer in the industry. It changed my life. And I was one of those people that was a skeptic at first. I'm like, oh God, even when I got started kind of out of desperation. And I was like, don't tell my mom I'm doing this. I'm telling my best friend, don't tell my mom, don't bring this up at family time because they're going to look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But what it really is we have this misconception that it's just somebody at the top who is recruiting a whole bunch of people under them. And the thought is that only the people at the top make the most money, right? Well, I would challenge anybody to show me their job in which that's not the case.
Okay, shady.
You will never, ever out-earn your CEO or your supervisor or your upper-level executives, and that's just the way of the world. And MLM is like a bridge between employment and entrepreneurship. I think I grew up a lot in that industry and mindset for sure that prepared me for entrepreneurship.
And how long did you do that for?
MLM from 2011 to 2018, so 7 years. Yeah.
That's a long time, yeah.
My first experience was, I remember being 15, 16, and one of my boys was like, listen, if you join this company, you can make money. And I was like, all right, cool. I had a decent job at that point. Nothing crazy. It was an after school job. He's like, yo, so the guy that he was a part of pulled up in a BMW. And I'm like, okay, this guy has money. So we get in the car and he's telling me about a business opportunity. And I didn't see a way where I can make money without bringing other people in, but I guess that's all businesses, right?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, if you're in a sales role in a company, right? Or if you're in charge of marketing or something like that, the name of the game is to get more people, more customers, more sales. And so, yeah, multi-level marketing is just a way for you. It's supposed to be a way for you to find a product that you love, swear by, detergent, makeup, Mary Kay, things like that. And then you want to share it with your friends and family. And then they share it with their friends and family.
Oh, like influencers.
Yeah.
It was before influencers.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, it's like influencers.
Yes,
yeah. It's like everybody who's posting their link now, getting their affiliate. That's all we did was post our link, had a meeting, and we got our affiliate.
Yeah.
That's it. That's actually very good. I never thought about that, but yeah.
That's exactly what they do.
That's what they do.
So was that right after college? Where was that
Girl,
trajectory?
I said 2012.
Oh yeah, well,
Y'all know how old I am, but we gonna let the camera. We gonna let the
They
HB
don't know.
on the camera do what it do, right?
Nobody knows nothing.
No. So it was actually 2008 to 2010. I had experienced the first what's the word that I'm looking for?
Recession
of my adult life. And I lost everything that I owned. So at that time, I was making a lot of money in real estate, lost everything. Went back to work. I went from making like $250,000 a year to a job where I was earning $11 an hour, right? So completely humbling experience. I go back to work and I am in this role. Finally, by the time I accepted this job, it's like really 2010-ish, 2011. And nope, it's 2010. One of my then business partners and I started a clothing store. We opened a clothing store in Macon, Georgia. We would drive an hour back and forth from home to and from our boutique both ways
every day.
Every day. So that's 2 hours total just
driving.
And we operated in this space in Macon. And long story short, it was all we could afford. It was like, I don't know, $1,000 for the rent. And I really wanted to be in Atlanta, but it was like $10,000 for the rent. So we had to get in how we got in, right? It was later happened that our boutique would flood and destroyed a whole lot of inventory. The landlord couldn't afford to make the repairs. They wanted us to do it. Mm-hmm. And we vacated that property and we ended up coming to Atlanta to open a store. And I'm in Atlanta. We go from that $1,000 rent to like $5,000 a month rent. We had found like this really economically priced location, right?
$5,000.
It's $5,000 more. Now, I still worked a job part-time. My business partner was running the boutique kind of full-time. I would come around, my off days. And she just sporadically quit on me one day. She's like, I feel like this is too much like work. It feels like a job. And because even at that time, I'm the marketing person. Like everybody thought that it was just me who owned it by myself. She didn't like it. So she quit, forced me to have to quit my job after struggling for a while to keep that boutique going. And as I'm working there, I realized like this is super slow. You would have these peaks where people would come in and buy, and then you go hours with nobody walking into your store. And then Instagram boutiques happened and everybody wants to buy online. And I have this choice to make. Do I navigate through the online space or do I keep my store open? And I made the decision to close my store because I was a coach even at that time. I didn't know it. Like it was a full circle moment. I was a coach at that time, and what I wanted most out of that opportunity was to connect with people, and being online wouldn't let me do it. So then I go back and get a job, and your girl is stressed. Like we're not making $11 an hour anymore, but we're not back to that $250 a year either, right? I get this job. I'm back in leasing. I've been in property management already on a management level, but I'm back on an entry level position, and I meet this guy who ends up being my first real life mentor, not in the books or the videos, in real life. And all I knew of him at that time was that he was successful in this coffee industry space, and he's making millions. Like I'm looking at Bentleys. I see the BMWs. I see the S550s. You're on the cover of Success magazine. And I'm like, what do you do? And he's telling me that he's running this online coffee empire. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Like somebody was trying to get me to make my clothing store go online, but I just wasn't feeling the space. And he's like, yeah, you should really consider, like, coffee is the #1 most consumed beverage in the world. And I'm like, really? Tell me how, right? Before you know it, I'm signed up in MLM. It was a company. It was a company called Organo Gold. Coffee really is the most consumed product in the beverage in the world besides water. And I'm thinking that this is like, you're the coffee empire king, whatever.
Yeah.
And before you know it, I paid $1,300 for my big old box of coffee, and I had to have meetings, and that is how I got into that. MLM. Yeah.
Oh, you just fell into?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So when he explained it to me, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of work, like having to talk to all these people. Can you get, I'm trying to figure out other ways to market it. And he's like, no, this is what we do. We have meetings and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, is that pyramid scheme? Are you in it? I'm calling my best friend because she knew who he was because he was on TV and magazines and stuff. And she's like, whatever it is that he does,
go ahead and do it too.
And we're doing it.
We're doing it together.
So when I call her when I find out, I'm like, girl, he's one of those pyramid scheme guys. And she's like, then we scheming too.
You need a ride or die friend like that.
We need a ride or die. She's like, we're scheming too. And she and I are both financially just in a desperate situation, right? And I was making a little bit of money back at that time, but it just wasn't my lifestyle. I lost everything, and I'm trying to get it back. And we were so desperate. I took the meeting, and I remember the day I signed up, I'm at work, right? And I have this 3-way call set up with my best friend and him. And we get on the call, and I'm like, my desk drawer is here, and I'm bent down like this, like, hello.
I know those. I remember those calls.
Y'all hear me? Can y'all? Okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put you guys on the call first. Y'all handle it, and then I'm gonna step away as soon as I can. So I keep putting my phone in my desk. My boss keeps coming out. I finally get it. I'm like, I'm going to the restroom. I go to the bathroom, and she, has already gone through the whole spill. And she's like, okay, Donni, we're going to do it. The only thing is he says that he will only bring me in under you because he's your mentor and he's your friend. And because I don't have any experience, he's like too high up for me to really get mentored by him. So if you say yes, then we say yes. And she's like, but the other part to that is I already said yes for us. So you owe me some money now at this point. We're signed up. And I remember being on that call, and I'm like, I don't know about this, you guys. And he said to me, Donni, you just stepped out from your office where you had to sneak and use the phone as a grown woman. Is that not enough? Is that the life that you want for yourself? Like you want to have to sneak and use your phone to take a call that can improve your life? You got to sneak? And I'm like, okay. So that was the one thing. And then later that evening, I'm still having second thoughts. And he said, now, when I met you, you told me that you were in financial hardship. Quite frankly, you're broke. And that's a 5-letter B word that I just don't resonate with. And he's like, the last thing, I'm telling him all these things that I think. Well, I think that I should just work my job and work my way up, and then I'll get to management, and then I'll get to regional management. And it's just, he said, the last thing a broke person should be doing is giving themselves financial advice, because what you're telling yourself has not worked for you yet. And I was like, when's the first meeting? Put it on the calendar. What do we do? How do I stir this? Does it need sugar and cream? Let's go.
What do we need?
And that was really an introduction for me into success. Like my clothing store did a good job, but it was still like a struggle. In that industry, I could build something that I felt like was mine. I practiced, like it really gave me the floor to practice becoming a well-developed woman, human, and leader. And that's why I'm so grateful for it. That's why I advocate, like anybody who doesn't know what they want to do, but you want to do something more than your job. You don't have a business plan mapped out. You're dealing with like some mental enemies. One day you can, one day you can't. Just go to MLM. Whether you build the company or not, go to MLM and just attend the trainings. The leadership development you get there is priceless.
So there's a lot of transferable skills that you've used from there too.
For sure. I have mastered using transferable skills from every single thing that I've done, from a job to MLM to previous businesses to bad decisions. Like they're all transferable.
We're all transferring.
We watched a video of you on stage maybe 12, 13 years ago. And you were just exactly the same person you are today. And it was like, how did Donni learn how to speak so well?
Yeah, I was the same energy. It was the
same energy that you
in
had
a good way
12, 13 years ago on stage. And
yeah, presence.
When that came from them as well.
No. So yeah, I probably perfected some things because I speak well. I was always chosen to be like the trainer for whatever companies I was at, and I'd be in front of conferences in front of 13,000, 20,000 people. So it definitely broke the ice, but my mom would tell it that I have been like dynamic in communication since I was 3 years old.
Okay.
And she thought that, she spent all her time, trying to convince me to be a journalist or a reporter. And yeah, I couldn't though, because I looked at how much money they made and I couldn't see that, right? I couldn't see that. So she's like, this is what you're missing, your calling. And communication is your calling. So I guess essentially, well, I know that I'm operating in that, but I've been a really good speaker to the point where in high school, you know, usually you're valedictorian and you're salutatorian and give your commencement speeches at graduation. I gave the speech. And I was not the valedictorian or the salutatorian. I was 10th in my class. And it was like a whole big deal because who is she? Why
is she here?
Why is she here? What is she doing? But, you know, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Did you have taken the clothing business and put it online at that point or no?
I could have.
You just didn't want to.
I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were being stubborn, you'll say?
No, I felt like, so I had started coaching even at that time. I sold very adult clothes, club clothes, right? This is at the time where all of the Love and Hip Hop franchise and the Housewives franchise was here. And so I was dressing some of them even. And I sold very adult clothes, and women would come in because I would post pictures on social media. Women would come in and they're looking for clothes for their daughters. And so they bring like these little bitty dresses to the register, and I'm looking at the dress, I'm looking at them, and I'm like, oh, is this a gift? Because the person who's purchasing that can't fit this. And I was like, oh, who's the gift for? Do you want me to wrap it up? Oh, it's for my daughter. And I'm like, oh, it's not.
Oh, yeah, I don't want that.
You can't purchase this from me for your daughter. And I had this one mom break down, and she's like, I'm so glad that you resonate with this because my daughter wants to dress so grown. And I'm like, do this. Bring her into me. Let me have a conversation, and I can show her how to dress this fly, but age appropriate. So we would throw cardigans and leggings and stuff on. And so then I started hosting like these mommy and me fashion workshops at my store on Sundays when we were closed. And then I started dressing. That turned into me personal shopping and helping women who wanted to date again, but they had lost themselves like in their career, like their ponytails and Ugg boots every day because they're doctors and lawyers. And so I started there, like, but it would take confidence training to get them comfortable wearing these clothes. So I was coaching. So when it came to the online space, I just couldn't I didn't have a passion for selling clothes. I have a passion for fashion, but I had more of a passion for helping women feel beautiful in being fashionable, like helping you to stand out and accepting it. So online just wouldn't have done that for me.
It's a constant pivoting for me.
Yeah.
You're on it. You're like, this ain't working, I'm gonna do this.
This ain't working,
This ain't working, I'm gonna do this. I ain't gonna shut it down completely. So that's great. But we fast forward that we didn't get to talk about your daughter.
Yeah.
She's such a big part of your life. Tell us a little bit about her. I know she's in college now.
Yeah, my stink. Oh my God, don't make that clip go viral. My stink of being, she's 20. She'll be 21 in 2 months. She is a senior at Auburn University.
21, wow.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember 21.
Yeah, I remember 21 too.
Yeah.
I do.
It's just a different word.
I hope her 21 is very different.
Okay.
From my 21. Yeah, but she's been there with me through the entire journey. I couldn't have asked for a better daughter. You know, growing up for her, you know, there are just things that as a parent you never want your children to experience, and that's like separation from their parents. Her father and I were engaged to be married. She grew up in a 2-parent household, and then we split. And then 2 years later, I would end up losing everything. And so, you know, that was like her first experience with losing her prized possessions, which at that time was like her bedroom because it was all like custom made. And I remember the bank sending a family in to the house when we were losing the home to attempt a short sale in lieu of foreclosure. And my daughter had this custom bedroom. It was like a princess castle. It was purple and pink and yellow and just fabulous. And this family comes to our house, and they have 2 children. I had not cried or felt bad that I was losing everything until this day. We're taking them around the house, like the bank made us show the house, right?
That's weird.
We're taking them around the house, and they stop in my daughter's room, and this boy and girl are in there, her age, arguing over who would get her bedroom in her face.
How old was she?
She was 6 or 7 at that time.
Oh, so she could remember.
She knows.
Yeah.
Oh, she does remember.
I was going to ask you if she remembers.
Well, she probably remembers, she says, because she hears me tell this story so much, right? But it was these children that are like, so excited about this room. Oh, mommy, please, can we get this house? I love it. I just want the room. And then the brother's like, no, I want this room. And my daughter's just kind of like standing there, you know, just like watching. She's standing right outside of the door, just kind of peeking and watching. And my heart sank. And I remember like I couldn't contain the emotion at that point. I kind of walked off really quickly. I went into my stairwell and I sat down and I'm just like crying, like silently crying. And like 30 seconds later, my daughter comes and she tiptoes down the stairs and I'm trying to hurry up and wipe my eyes. And she rubs my back and she says, Mommy, it's okay. You don't have to cry. Just as long as that boy doesn't get my room. And it was in that moment that I realized how much she knew, regardless of how much I was trying to hide from her, right? I mean, prior to this, I was too proud to tell anybody how bad it had gotten, and I didn't want to ask for help. I certainly didn't want to ask her father for help, and I didn't want to tell my mom because my mom's biggest fear, she always held the fact that I didn't graduate college over my head, and she's like, you're not going to be able to take care of yourself if anything happens to you. So I didn't want to go to her, but it had gotten to the point where we literally had no running water in the house. I'm going to the gym to shower, and I'm filling up gallons of water to bring back home just to pour in the tank to flush my toilet. Right?
Yeah.
And we're playing hide and seek and stuff in the dark and, going to bed early, making things up. And it was in the moment, like all of that, I was navigating through all of that so well, but it was those children arguing over her room that broke me down. And when she said what she said to me, I made a promise to her in that moment that you will never, ever experience this ever again. Mommy is going to set you up financially. And I became dead set on doing so. Like so many people make these excuses about why they can't do stuff. Oh, I have to work, so I can't start the job. I can't finish the course because I'm busy. The kids are calling my name. It's dinner. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm all of these things. But what you are is a freedom tool for your children. I think in the African American community, we don't set up any type of inheritance for our children. So generation after generation, we're starting off from scratch. And other cultures, white people, Indians, Asians, they have a different economical standard that gives their children a head start. And I saw that. I identified that. And I'm like, the cycle ends with me. So many people will figure out a way to survive being broke for their children, but they won't spend that same energy figuring out how to get rich for them either. Yeah. And so I was on that side of the coin where I said, I'm going to figure out how to get rich for mine. And that's what we've been doing.
Are we figuring out how to get rich for Alani?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alani is rich. She is rich. Yeah. That's how it is. But no, that's amazing. And she's doing great because she's in college and she's loving it and everything has worked out.
It's subjective.
All right. So, Donni, I was just about to ask you, you were mentioning that your daughter will have a decision after she leaves college.
Yeah.
Are you more pro-entrepreneurship or job for her?
For sure, pro-entrepreneurship.
Not a question?
Not a question. Okay. So it's ultimately her choice, but I hope that she chooses entrepreneur. Well, here's the thing. I have my daughter who's 20, and then I have little cousins who are 24, 25, and a 21-year-old. The 25-year-old is like my first daughter. She was there before Dej. I babysat her, and so she was with me all the time. I am building what I hope is a family business. I see the four of them taking over my business. Like they're all super talented and kind of in this space, and they admire what I do. So when I say entrepreneurship versus job, it's kind of a catch-22 because it's my company. But I do want them to come and work for me, right? Yeah. And then ultimately roll into leadership one day.
What are you thinking about Alani?
Yeah, because I would want Alani to work and manage our companies. But I don't know if she has a decision not to, how would you feel as a parent? Well, how would you feel as a parent if Deja comes and says, I want to do my own thing or I want to work for someone else?
She kind of does already. So I just approached her with an opportunity to have a more serious role. She's a senior. We're in her last semester. It's easy breezing. And I want her to get like some real experience because what she gets to do in my company now is nothing like what she will do upon graduation. And I'm like, hey, you want to take on some more, responsibility? I'll pay you more, blah, blah. She's like, no, I'm really busy. This is the last semester. I've got 19 hours. And I'm like, okay, that's valid. And then I call her one day and she's running to meet. Hello? And I'm like, where are you? And she's like, oh, I got another job. Oh, you did? Doing what? And she's working at Dick's Sporting Goods. And I said, the audacity of you to turn down additional work from me to go and work for I'm to go and work for somebody else, right? But she explained it, and I think it's great. It's a great maturity tool. She has to grow up, and I definitely don't want her to come into what I've built and think that she built it. So Dan Cathy said in his family,
Who's Dan Cathy?
Dan Cathy is the CEO of Chick-fil-A. Well, they just released CEO to someone else, but previously CEO of Chick-fil-A. He's Mr. Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A's son, right? He said in an interview, he was interviewed on the Social Proof podcast, and he said, David asked him, what is it like when new people are born into the family? Like, do you have... Are the children and the next generations, are they fighting over, ownership and leadership and blah, blah, blah? And Dan Cathy said, absolutely not. That's against our core values. Like, one of our core values is that we prioritize family first. Our family has to respect each other, love each other, and get along, period. He said that as a Cathy, your last name guarantees you an inheritance, but it does not guarantee you ownership or leadership. Meaning, in their family, if you're not displaying like an enthusiasm about the business from a very early age, they've already identified that leadership is not going to be your role. So if you're somebody who's been sitting around, just letting the company make money, letting Chick-fil-A do what Chick-fil-A does, you make no interest, somebody dies, and now you want to come up as a shareholder, as a voice, and you want to have an input on decisions, you don't get to make decisions. You get to keep collecting your inheritance, and you sit down somewhere and be quiet, right? Basically saying that just being born into this family, you won't get the right to just come in here and start doing what you want to do. We built this. So the same kind of applies in my company right now. I built this. It is my hope that one day, my daughter is in school for marketing, and it is my hope that one day she sees how big it is, because sometimes they can't see the magnitude of what you're doing being so closely connected to you.
Right.
But it's my hope that when she graduates and she's more around more, that she desires to apply her skill set to what I'm doing. And if she doesn't, I won't feel any kind of...
So with her, like you just said, you're doing something so big right now. She's never, I guess she may be too young, but she doesn't realize what's happening around her. Or do you think she has some inclination as to what mommy's building is very big? It's bigger than us right now.
She has an inclination that what I'm building is big because she knows how much money I generate, right? But she went to school, she went away to college kind of at the height of like things exploding. So she has not been in the environment.
At home
she's not,
with you.
Yeah, she's not been at home with me. She's not attended events. She used to attend events with me all the time when she was younger, but I was like really just outstanding in that industry. MLM is very small. You're nobody outside of it, right? And so she has not experienced the conferences, and she's not experienced the people who just will randomly walk up and say, thank you. You've changed my life, or you've contributed something to my life. She hasn't. So when she comes home, we're going to throw her into that environment and let's see. She'll see.
Can I send a message to Deja right now? Listen, I know your mom just said she changed some lives. We're telling you,
she changed our lives.
2 people with a kid, and a family, and she changed our lives and
many more.
Thank you.
So,
and our daughter's lives.
That's
why Alani's rich. Yes.
Alani has an inheritance.
That's
Let's make inheritance cool. I love it. Yeah.
So you've been now you would say you've been a business coach or in this field for 15 years?
Janelle Gunn?
Sorry, 10.
Well, so yeah, I'll say 10 that I've known what I was doing, right? And not necessarily a business coach. I've been in coaching for the last 11 years actually now. 2012.
And what would you say is the big difference between a business and coaching?
So there's different areas, and I actually take that back. You might be right. So I started in the professional space in 2012 when I started coaching other people in MLM. But remember, I owned my clothing store before, and I was coaching kind of on a confidence level. That was 2010. So yeah, we're 13 years in this thing. So the difference between business coaching and any other coaching is, I could have been... In the beginning, I started out as a women's empowerment coach. From my boutique hearing women, like I styled doctors and attorneys and people who had just lost confidence being wives. They lost their identity being wives and mothers. You know, it's like it's so easy to, once you become a person and they say, tell me about yourself. Women start off with,
I'm a mother.
And I'm a mother and I'm a, no. You are those things, but who are you, right? Outside of being Alani's mom and Tony's wife, who are you? And so I started off in that space. And then it went from, you know, just really working on women, like helping women to remember who the F they were before they were all these other things. Because what ends up happening is a lot of women fall into the identity of motherhood and spousehood, and they begin to feel insignificant in life. Like they begin to feel like, man, I remember I had all these dreams. I wanted to dance. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to sing. And I got caught up in bottles and, you know, date nights and things like that. And that it really does happen. So it started there, and then it would transition into personal development coaching, where I just helped people believe at a higher level. You know, I would get on calls in MLM to talk to people about the opportunity, and they would say, you know, they just had all the excuses in the world. They didn't believe, well, what if it doesn't work? And I'm like, what if you go into work and they fire you? Like, what are we talking about here? And it's just a shift in belief and perspective. And so I went into that direction, and I was helping people in MLM make money. I broke a couple of six-figure earners, and we talk about that on social media. And what happened was one day, somebody sent me a message on Facebook. And let me back up. In MLM, I operated very ethically, meaning I struggled. The reason that it has such a negative kind of name is because people will sign you up knowing that you are going to fail. You're not going to use this product. You're not going to recruit a single person. They just want you to sign up and get their little commission, right? I would get on the phone with people and I hear them and I'm asking them, well, tell me about your dreams and what you want to do in life. And they're talking to me and I would say things like, oh, this might not be what you should do, but you know what you should do? You should start that cleaning business, or you should start that financial coaching, you know, service, or whatever the case is. And I'm like, let me know if you have questions. People started having questions. And so I'm taking phone calls and I'm like, you know, they just want me to, well, what do you think about this idea? I thought about what you said and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And so I would start talking about it, or they tag me and post on Facebook like, man, Donni took time that she didn't have to take, and I went and started a business. And somebody had said, I went out and I made 6 figures in 8 months. And so that post like went crazy on Facebook. And this guy sends me a DM and he's like, hey, how much would you charge to coach me? Oh, y'all pay for that?
That was the start of it?
Is this a thing? Like, I didn't realize what I was doing was coaching.
Right.
And I said, and I'm like really thinking about this question. And I took it to a friend of mine, and she's like, well, it looks like he wants advice. I'm like, but I give that for free. What do I charge him? And so I quoted him a number and he said, okay. And that gentleman went on to start his business, and he sent me a referral, and it went from there. Yeah.
And I do want to ask, because in the circles that kind of you're around, you're like I don't know if you're the only woman, but you're one of the few women. So how do you kind of maintain that in this type of coaching world where there's 97% men and not many women around?
You know, the interesting thing is that's not the truth. There are more female coaches than male coaches. Just like in network marketing, I learned that 70% of the industry were women, but the top 30% of the moneymakers were men. And it kind of looks this way in this space too, in this digital information space. There are more female coaches, but I think, again, even as entrepreneurs, we're still getting caught up in priorities. And I get it. Like when, you know, my daughter was small, she was absolutely the priority. I think that I have a little bit more flexibility. And just in my experience, I think things are changing now where we're loving ourselves differently. So it allows us to love other people differently. But previously, in my experience, the guys were more receptive to like collaborations and partnerships. And the ladies, you know, we would, and I've been guilty too, of just kind of holding things to the chest, and you don't want to create another competitor. So we didn't, you know, collaborate on that level. You know, thankfully now in the last 2 years, we've kind of been going in the direction of partnerships and collaborations, which I love and I think is beautiful. But it does look like I'm always the only woman around.
Yeah.
Speaking with you wanting to work with the women together, but how do you also stand out from a group of women who may be doing similar things, or a group of anyone doing similar things? How do you stand out in can be seen as a saturated market?
Yeah. Everyone
What makes Donni
is like
different?
saturated. So everybody has to find their own unique value proposition, right? What about you specifically makes you different? And because coaching is somewhat, at least the way that I've built a personal brand, it doesn't become about the information. If I'm being honest, the majority of us know the same things. The difference comes from people who are teaching based on what they've learned, and then people like me who are teaching based on what I've experienced. So a lot of times, even when I'm coaching you guys, I'll say, well, this is what I did, right? I'm not telling you something I read in a book, but if I am telling you something I read in a book, I tell you, I just read this. I just took this course, right? Let's try it. I'm super honest about it. And I think that has carried me a really long way. Also, I'm super like authentic. Like I just am who I am, and that personality carries into my business. And so I tend to attract people who desire my type of personality. Yeah. I attract people who desire that personality. And what really shifted for me in this space where I started to like rise above is when I decided to just be myself. I remember early in the industry, I was watching coaches, mostly Caucasian coaches, right? And then there were some Black women coaches as well who, from a personality perspective, you know, you ever heard like they'd be like, oh, she act white, right? It was like that. And I don't act white, right? I am very African American.
You don't act white.
Right? And I don't want to offend anybody there. That's just the thing. It's a real thing. People say it. And so I'm watching these coaches. And I remember at that time, Valerie Burton was my favorite, but she's always in suits and she's so polished, and, you know, she wears the cute little heels and all this stuff. And I'm like out there, cleavage and heels and, you know, all this stuff. But I loved her information and I resonated with her. I just knew that
To an extent.
people wouldn't resonate with me if I tried to be her. And for a while, I was trying to be like her. Like she was the image of what it looked like. And then I've always wanted to be like an Oprah Winfrey, and I'm looking at Oprah and I'm like, Oprah is really to do, and you get a car and we're going to celebrate
Poised,
you.
very poised.
Yeah, very poised. And so I'm putting my work voice on. I'm code switching. I'm doing what I had to do in a job, which I hated so much. It was translating into my business in the early days. And then I had to say, hold on, Donni, like this doesn't feel good, right? And as I'm having that thought, I come across this Caucasian woman, Sandy Krakowski. She is a business coach. I don't know that she's a business coach anymore today, but she was a business coach at that time. And she's making 7 figures. She's in Forbes and all these magazines. And this woman has pink, platinum, and purple hair.
Ooh.
And I'm like, well, get the hell out of here.
Check this out.
Okay. This is around 2017. And I'm like, oh, so this is what we doing. Because I was wearing my hair colored all kinds of crazy colors, but I would always put a chocolate brown or a black wig on top when I needed to be professional and presentable in this space. And I saw her and I just remember very clearly thinking, why can white people do that? If I did it, I'm a hood rat. She does it, and her comments are like, oh, you're so eclectic and you're so bold and
Quirky
brave. Yeah, you're quirky. I do it and I'm a hood rat and I'm ratchet and I'm all these other things. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. Period. I had a hair appointment. I was modeling for this girl who's a colorist. And I had previously told her, yes, but our color has to stay in the family of this. I got there that day and I said, do whatever you want. She said, whatever? I said, whatever.
I'm showing up.
I'm showing up. My hair came out yellow and orange and platinum and just all kinds of stuff. And then eventually I got that changed to like pink and purple and turquoise. And people went crazy for this hair. Now, at this time, I'm a 6-figure income earner, so I have a bit of authority. And people really just was like,
We was waiting for that.
They were like, I respect the fact that you were so brave. Can I ask you how your hair affects your business? Can I blah, blah, blah? And my hair became this marketing piece. It became like everybody wanted to see what the girl, if I'm on a flyer, at this point with my new headshots with this pink, purple, and turquoise hair, people are like, what's she talking about? Even if they're skeptical, they're tuned in because they may have seen maybe not the hair color in them, but they saw something about me in that moment that resonated with a part of their insecurity, and they wanted to see what I was talking about. And so I started being exactly who I am, right? And sharing parts of my life. I share personal parts of my life, not too personal, but personal enough for you to understand who I am as a person, right? I'm not just a businesswoman. I'm a good human being, right? And so that worked. And it would go on that later that year, this is 2017, I would get the biggest call of my life, which at that time happened on Facebook, so it was a DM, from a gentleman who said, hey, we've been following your profile for a while. I work with Bishop T.D. Jakes and MegaFest, and we'd love to have you out as a speaker. And I'm in my DMs like, this dude. I had just told this story on Facebook about this guy flying me to Miami. I used to let my clients fly me out for like one-on-one days, VIP days. And this guy flies me out to Miami. He paid my price at that time, which was like $5,000. And I get there and I'm supposed to be speaking at his organization's event. I get there and the event's the next day. But we were supposed to meet with his leaders that night for dinner. And he's like, yeah, everybody kind of canceled. They're still working on the event. It's just going to be you and I for dinner. Okay. So we go to dinner and we're hanging out and it's cool. It's copacetic. Everything's cool. The next morning, he calls. Well, he actually sends a message in the middle of the night and says, hey, we've got some logistic issues happening with the event. Turns out we won't be having it.
Okay.
Boy, quit playing with me, right? Like, stop playing. And it turned out, like, he later admitted, you know, he's like, I said, okay, so what are we doing? Am I free to go? Like, oh, well, you know, I thought maybe we could hang out. We had such a good time last night. Let me just take you out and blah, 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 blah. Oh, we didn't have that kind of good time.
We had a business meal.
Right? And so I left. And I left. He didn't want to change my flight. He was refusing to change my flight. I changed my flight, and I leave. And it wasn't even a I changed my flight thing. I had an open ticket, and he didn't want to book the ticket. I always fly in kind of, well, at that time I was flying in open just so I wasn't rushing. He didn't want to book the ticket, so I just booked it. And so I go on Facebook, and I'm talking trash about him, right? And he sees it, and he DMs me, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I should have just been more upfront. I think you're beautiful. I love your realness. I just wanted to have a date with you.
$5,000.
So you got flown out right there. You got paid.
Yes, I did, but he ended up having to give me the money back still for my flight. I'm like, there's no conversation. So after he gave me my money back, I blocked him, right? So I had just told this story on Facebook, and a couple of days later, here's this guy. Hey, we've been watching you on social media, and we love what you're
another
about.
Scammer.
And I'm like, here we go with this. So I respond to the message, and I was like, yeah. He's like, I'm from Bishop T.D. Jakes. I'm one of the producers for his MegaFest event. Are you accepting speaking opportunities? So I'm like, yeah.
Very cold.
Very cold, yeah. And he's like, great. You know, we're DMing back and forth. And he's like, great. Where can I send some information? My email. What is it? In my bio. This is how I'm responding to this guy. So the next day, I get this email, and it looks official. So I'm like, this kind of looks official. It's coming from the Potter's House, you know, organization. Let me just call the number in the email to see if anybody's heard of this guy. And I do. And I ask for him, and they're like, oh, he's in meetings right now. Would you like to speak to his assistant? Actually, yes. You know, I'm like, actually, yes. I would love to speak to his assistant. Long story short, I had pink, purple, and turquoise hair. I was really nervous. You have to submit all of these headshots and stuff. And I was really nervous to submit a headshot because I still couldn't believe I had gotten this opportunity. I was the person who in my status updates, which is what they were at that time on Facebook, I cursed. I talked about dating. I talked about sex. I talked about business. And I got pink, purple, and turquoise hair. And so I had a phone call with them. And I said, are you guys sure? Like, you want me? You like, because I'm coming into your church environment and I don't want to mess anything up for you guys. Are you sure? And they're like, oh, we picked you because of who you are. We want that personality. We want that look. Like the way you impact people in your own community, you will impact them at a larger scale in ours. When I heard those words, from the Jakes team, from Bishop Jakes' team, that was it for me. Live in who you are. That's when everything started to change for me.
And on that note,
It don't get no better than Donnie. We're gonna need a part 2 to this.
yeah, we definitely are. But
Yes.
how can people find you? Just
Find me on Instagram, Donni Wiggins _ DonniWiggins _ we didn't even get to really talk about what I do today.
No, I know. This is gonna have to be a part 2.
We'll do a part 2. We'll do a part 2.
We appreciate you
Thank
guys
you so
being
much.
here. Thank you for being here with us on another episode of the Hard Rock Hustle podcast.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.
This has been an episode of the Heart Zog Hustle podcast. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite listening platform. And follow Anthony and Janilka on Instagram at The Hartrimony. That's TheHartrimony. Keep hustling, baby. Keep hustling, baby.
Get that money. Get that money.